All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. We are going to do this every Wednesday, 1 p.m. California time and 4 p.m. Eastern time. Samir is with us. Samir, do you want to do a quick intro before we get started?
Sure, Yudi. Hi, everyone. I'm a very sleepy Samir Kedekar right now. I was up late last night, early this morning. I didn't sleep well for some reason. And so here I am. So I'm not responsible for anything that comes out of my mouth today. And I'm sure it's a huge comfort to you and your audience.
That
I'm just,
doesn't sound. Yeah.
no, I've just been working on
I
this.
thought you were just on the vacation.
I was on a vacation, but I knew I had to come back to working on a NOID response, a notice of intent to deny on an EB1. And the way it came out is that we sued USCIS on this EB1 denial.
Oh, wow.
And they gave our client, whose daughter is about to age out, only two of the categories. So we sued. The government has 2 months to respond to the lawsuit. So they, before responding, they said, "Can we reopen the case?" Which is kind of what we hope they do sometimes.
Yeah.
And they reopened it and gave him a third category, basically admitting that they messed up on that one category, and then issued a NOID saying, "We still don't think you merit an approval, but they're giving us 30 days to respond." Right. So sometimes what that means is they're just trying to set the table for a better denial that'll survive in court, or they're giving us an opportunity to improve the case. We're not really sure which one it is. In any case, I was up late last night working on that NOID, which is due on Friday. So,
But how
so
was
I
your
have an
vacation?
excuse. Yeah.
How was your vacation, though?
It was awesome. I was in Costa Rica,
Mm.
which is our first time there. I only spent 3 or 4 days there to pick up my son, who was at a tech camp. Not a great experience for my son, who apparently hates bugs, and we didn't realize that about him. But going to Costa Rica was a very difficult way to
How old is your son?
discover that. 15.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah. The
Mm.
note to self: if you hate bugs, do not go to
To
the
Costa
equator.
Rica.
Yeah, to Costa Rica or the Amazon.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah. Good to know. My wife hate bugs, and they always mm,
And we
like.
saw some big ones. Yes.
Mm, yeah, that's why I like Northern California. It's just so nice.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to sleep knowing things that are crawling around your room, and you're not really sure if you'd like them to make contact with you at night. So
Right. Awesome. Cool. I am excited. I already see super chats coming in. So people, even though you are sleepy, they want your advice. So, but there's a lot of layoffs happening. So I want to talk about that. Before that, let's answer this quick super chat and then we'll go from there.
sounds good.
Oh wow, the design changed. Anyway, can I do my day one CPT and EB visa application at the same time? Will there be a second lottery this year?
I mean, in theory, you can. Number one, you know how I feel about day one CPT. I think it's very risky. I think it's going to, if we're going to take bets on what is going to be the first thing to be shoved into the recycle bin by the Trump administration, I can see day one CPT being that. So just be very careful about it, because it's already on shaky legal ground, in my opinion. That being said, it's not so much about you being in day one CPT, it's about you being in F1 status, right? So anyone who's in F1 status can, in theory, do an EB, employment-based green card process at the same time. Okay. Understand that travel is going to be impacted, because see, Homeland Security here in the US cares a little less. They released some policy guidance on this last year saying, they're kind of fine with it. But the State Department, which issues visas at consulates, has not said the same thing. And they can very well deny your visa application if you have a green card process started. Because why? If you're in F1 status, you have an F1 visa, you're supposed to show an intent to return to your home country. So, like I say, with everything, make sure you consult an attorney on this one. It's very fact specific, and there's lots of different kind of considerations to, what's the word, consider. So, but yeah, second lottery, there almost always is a second lottery. Like I always say, again, don't pin your
Don't
hopes
rely
on
on
that.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't know when it's going to be.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to start with many people who are on OPT. Maybe they are on, let's start with STEM OPT first, because that's probably more serious. they are on STEM OPT, they lost their job. Now, what is their options? Like, how many days do they have left? And then what are their options?
So when you're OPT and STEM OPT have different unemployment period, allowances, right? You're always going to catch me on this one. Yeah, the OPT I believe is 90 days.
Yep.
STEM OPT I believe is another 60 days.
Yep.
Go back and check that to make sure everybody. I will do so too. It's not something that comes up a lot for immigration lawyers because we don't work a lot with students. So, and I'm sleepy, so I don't remember. But those are the restrictions, right? So OPT, you have more options to deal with that period of unemployment because you are allowed to be self-employed, right? And if you find some creative way to engage in self-employment in a field that's aligned with your education and your degree, that's perfectly permissible, right? So there are ways to do that, correctly conceived. STEM OPT is a problem because you should not be self-employed under STEM OPT in most cases. So I don't know what to tell you other than trying to find a job. See that unemployment and try to find a job. Yeah, you have to find something. So
and so let's say for the STEM OPT, if I have 50 days left, is that pretty much it? Like, then other than getting a new job, is there any other visa type that I can go into?
We get this question a lot. Like, it's hard to tell anybody what visa types are open to them unless we understand a lot of different things about their path, like their profile, right? Their nationality, their education, their accomplishments, it's all based on those kinds of things. So I can't generally answer that, but I would say generally speaking, there's not many other options. The options are restricted. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Right. Here's another one. Oh, I forgot. Is it next week? When are we doing O1 webinar?
That's next Friday. You forgot already?
Yes, sir. Your sleepiness is coming to me.
Yeah, come on. Like, you're the younger one, the wide awake one, and how am I remembering what
You look younger than me, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure the gray hair gave it away. Yeah.
O1 visa is happening next week, Friday. Link is in the description, absolutely free.
Not just an O1 visa, it's like why you can prepare yourself for an O1 visa if you originally didn't think you can qualify. So, considering the O1 visa as an option for you when you didn't realize it was one.
Yeah. And even, I was shocked when you said even graduates, like someone who has master's degree, could be qualified for it.
Absolutely. So, yeah. And in fact, we're talking to some companies right now. We can't obviously say who they are. We're talking to companies that are interested in this idea of coaching up their recent grads to qualify for an O1.
Because they don't want to do they don't want to rely on
it. They're just not getting them lottery picks, right? They're not getting picked in the lottery, and they want to keep them here. They don't want to, send them abroad and work for their global affiliates.
Wow. And is there a cap for like H1B? We have a cap, like, okay, only 85,000. Does the O1 have a cap?
There's no cap on the O1.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to learn more next Friday, if I don't forget. I told everybody that how you don't like me. That's why you skipped last week.
Yeah, I was getting a little tired of you. Yeah, I was getting a little sick of you.
Yeah. Hopefully vacation helped you and the bugs.
Yeah. Well, then I ran across the bugs and I'm like, well, Yudi's better than the bugs, so maybe I'll just go back to him.
Right. Okay. I am on F1 OPT. Signed a $15,000 training repayment agreement 2 weeks after training began. Left in 2 months. Now owe 10 to 11,000. Is it enforceable? Also, green card holder co-signer. What's their liability? Interesting.
This is problematic on several different levels. Okay. And it's not just problematic for the company who's charging you for the training, right? The whole idea is maybe you go unpaid, but generally you're supposed to get paid for this stuff. Not that there's a payment requirement. If they're charging you back for the training, this has been, I don't know about this particular fact pattern, but there have been some similar ones that have been basically swept up into fraud investigations by USCIS. Because what happens is we're just charging you for training. You're actually not doing any training, right? We're just collecting this money from you. And some of these companies have been identified and blacklisted by USCIS, but worse is that any student visa holder, this is for people that it happened like 10 years ago. But 10 years later, when they're in H1B status and they go apply for an H1B visa stamp, they get their visa denied because they were part of this, right? They were a victim of this. I would say students are victims, right? Dipesh may be a victim right now, but he's considered to have been part of this fraud by USCIS. Do you understand? So
get
I would talk
a lawyer.
To a lawyer, the lawyer up, absolutely.
Yeah. And links are in the description. Samir, do you guys help with this, something like that as well?
We can, or if we can't, we certainly know of people within the immigration bar who are amazing at this kind of stuff. So we can always point you in the right direction.
Nice. Okay, cool. All right. Person on STEM OPT has an H1B file under consular processing by their current employer. If they switch to a new employer while still on STEM OPT, can H1B transfer to the new employer?
So, and we're talking about a lottery H1B, right?
Yeah.
So this can be tricky too. Okay. The H1B lottery that you got picked in the lottery. It's a big deal, right? But it's specific to the employer that registered you, right? So if you switched employers on STEM OPT, it's highly unlikely you can switch your H1B to that employer. It's very difficult to do so. The one way to do it would be to have that employer file for an H1B, a lottery H1B for you. Not really a change of, not really a lottery H1B, but a change of status. Okay, from F1 to H1B, under the theory that you already picked, and get that approved before October 1st, such that on October 1st, your H1B will change to that, or will be activated for that employer. But there's so many logistical concerns there, because like, what's going to happen if you switch employers? The H1B employer is going to withdraw their H1B, right? And then you're not going to be able to do what I just said.
Yeah.
And we talked, and we even talked about this on some of like the videos we filmed earlier this week. Yudi.
Yeah.
If they withdraw the H1B, what happens? That sets in motion a withdrawal of your CVIS status too, unless you tell me. Okay. So can you stay with the employer until October 15th, and work with them and then change employers then? There's a lot at stake. I can't give you like that personal advice, that level of personal advice, but consider like what you have to lose.
Yeah. Okay. Can I change my status from in USA right now, H4 to F1 after 3 attempts? F1 prior refused at the embassy India. Will the previous refusal be a problem?
I guess my question is, why do you want to keep doing this to yourself? Like, what is the benefit of going to F1? Okay, that's a question I would ask you.
Most likely, this is my guess, assumption, OPT. So
get
that
OPT.
Yeah.
What's so great about OPT? I mean, it's 1 year. Look, if you listen to this podcast, you hear about all the problems people are having on OPT right now. Like, you really want to go there? Okay, fine. I understand you want to work, right? Maybe your spouse can get an I-140 approved, and maybe you can get an H4 EAD too. Think about that way. Anyway, because you can go to school full time on the H4, right? I always kind of shy away from doing H4. I feel like you're downgrading a little bit to an F1. It's not a downgrade, but it's like the H4 has a dual intent and the F1 doesn't. Okay. And while refusals at the consulate may not mean a refusal here with USCIS. It certainly doesn't help. Okay. And if you've had F1 refused 3 times, that's pretty extreme, right? So you can certainly go ahead and try, but I would consider maybe are there any other options for you post graduation? We're talking about how many years now from after you start school to work in the US besides the LPT. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, is there a reason why you drink from a Dubai mug? Oh, it's not Dubai. It's actually Mumbai mug. Mumbai. I am from
Are
Mumbai.
you hinting at first I thought he was talking to me. I'm like, are they like other camera? What's going on? I don't have a Dubai mug. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Any update on birthright citizenship?
Not since we talked last. Remember, since that Supreme Court hearing, which was not in and of itself about birthright citizenship, it was more about limiting executive power and their ability to enforce nationwide injunctions, right? That's what that decision was about. The decision also said that they extended the hold on the implementation of the birthright citizenship EO for 30 days after the decision. So the only updates I'm hearing is that there have been movements towards forming class actions. Class actions the other way to get protection, right? So remember, certain states have enjoined the rule. So like you're fine there, and other states haven't, and you're not fine there, right? So the other way to get protection in the states where you're not fine is through a class, to participate in a class action. And those are being formed right now. So that's the only update that we have. They moved pretty quickly to start creating those classes to protect anybody who might be affected.
Yeah. Okay. I got my F1 visa from India on University of Cumberland and got my H1B picked and approved. Is it safe to travel in the current situation for stamping?
I mean, once again, if you're listening to us, we're not going to sit here and give blanket, you're safe. Like nobody is safe. Okay. Nobody's unsafe either. So we're not going to sit here and give you any guarantees. I think the better way to ask this question is, what are my risks? Okay? Ask what are my risks? So you have an F1 visa from the Indiana University of Cumberland, meaning you're probably day 1 CPT, right? I'm not sure if that's true.
I'm assuming so, yeah.
But if that's the case, okay, your risks are day 1 CPT might come under fire down the line. We don't know when. But if so, then maybe your status will be at risk. Probably not. I haven't heard of this being an issue for any other day 1 CPT holders yet. But that being said, you got your F1 visa there. Then you got your H1B picked. If you want to travel in the current situation for H1B stamping or F1 stamping, we don't know for sure. Probably H1B stamping.
Yeah.
That should be fine, but we don't know anything about your H1B and how good of a case it is. Are there any red flags? So a lot of these, risks that you have to deal with are very specific to your case,
your situation,
to your personal background and those kinds of things. If you really, really want to know, you should probably speak to an attorney. Maybe you can even speak to the attorney that did your H1B. They should be able to help you as well.
Yeah. Another is it safe question. I have retail fraud 3rd degree in Michigan back in 2015. The case was expunged. What does expunged means?
That means it's a process where the court will seal the records. It's kind of like you've paid your dues. We don't want this to affect your life, so we're going to seal the records.
Gotcha. Yeah. I'm currently on H1B and planning to go for H1B extension stamping during end of year. Is it safe?
Is it safe? Okay. Are you at risk? Basically, that's what everybody means.
Yeah.
And when I say seal your records, that's true for everybody but immigration. Unfortunately, your records are. See, the thing about crimes, like once they happen, they've always been deemed to happen from an immigration perspective. Okay. You're always going to kind of have to deal with it until you get your green card. Okay. Even if you commit a crime on a green card, you could possibly lose your green card. Okay. So it's kind of a big deal. Retail fraud, 3rd degree in Michigan, cases expunged. I'm not sure what retail fraud is. And I'm not sure, I've never heard of it described like that.
Like shoplifting.
If it's shoplifting, that sounds a lot less troublesome, a lot less, significant than retail fraud, which sounds, to me, it sounds like a felony, which it probably isn't. In any case, if the case is expunged, here's what's happening with the H1Bs. Okay. Anybody who's ever had an interaction with the police, even if they were not ultimately convicted, even if they were innocent, but they were fingerprinted, let's say you're arrested, fingerprinted, and then they were released because it wasn't you, okay? You're in the FBI records, okay? If you're in the FBI records, what's happening to everybody in H1B, they're using their technology, right? Like the AI technology and like their upgraded tools to identify these people and issue RFEs to their employers, okay? Saying, we've come across adverse information about your employee. They need to go get biometrics done. Okay. And so we're starting to see these around the country. A couple of our clients have received these. So far, we haven't heard anything terrible happening at the biometrics or to the H1B, but it really depends on the offense. So this is something where I would 100% talk to an attorney. Yeah. Because this is in a really complicated area of law. We call it crimmigration or criminal immigration, and the kind of like how the two intersects. Super complicated and specialized.
Okay. Many companies who have history of H1B sponsorship are not considering international students even for entry-level jobs with STEM OPT. What can be predicted for 2026 for entry-level jobs?
Ooh. I mean, your guess is as good as ours. Like this is not something that we're hearing about in our immigration law circles, right? I do follow economists, who specialize in immigration, and they're already noting that there's a downward trend in not just in companies,
like downward as in terms of companies wanting to like pull back,
or even students wanting to come here in the first place.
Oh yeah,
right?
Okay.
Yeah. I do think there might be if there are more companies who are less willing to hire STEM OPT and do H1Bs, I only think that trend will continue because that's a reaction that many companies have to the Trump administration and their perception of how hard they make the immigration process. So there's some companies who are like, we'll do whatever we can because this is our bread and butter to find our talent. Like, we don't care. Like we will just come up with, new ways to make it work. It's that important for us. There are companies that think like that, and there are companies who are saying it's not worth it. And really just depends on the company and their leadership.
I like the name, Bas Karo. Samir, do you speak Hindi by any chance?
So if you haven't realized by now, I am a total ABCD, right?
I don't think people know what ABCD means. I mean, some do, but
American born, confused, Daisy. So, and while I know I wasn't American born, I should have been, and I came here when I was 6 weeks old. And what happens to some of us is that our parents try so hard to assimilate by speaking English all the time that we don't. I didn't pick up Hindi or Marathi, which is my family's language. So, unfortunately, no, I don't.
Yeah. That's ABCD. So you don't speak Hindi, okay?
I don't speak Hindi, no.
Same for your kids?
Oh, they definitely don't speak Hindi. Yeah.
But do you watch like Bollywood movies or no?
Typically not. It's not my interest.
Oh, not your interest. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this person is asking, if laid off, does it affect N-400?
N-400. Okay. I'm assuming you have a green card. You applied for your citizenship, which is what the N-400 form is. If you're laid off, it's a fair question. It's always affected you in your immigration life when you get laid off, and everyone is so traumatized by the impact of that. But that by itself should have no impact on your citizenship because there is no requirement that you work. Like, there's no requirement that you're working for the citizenship, right? Like there is for the visa.
Even if the green card is from employer?
So the green card through the employer is to get a green card, right? Once you have your green card and some time has passed, let's say 6 months, are all green card holders required to work? No. You have lifetime permission to live here and work here if you want to. Now, of course, nobody wants you being kind of a public charge to U.S. taxpayers, but there's no ongoing requirement to work, right? Do U.S. citizens have to work? They don't have to if they don't want to.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. I need to file my N-400. Maybe I should have you guys help me with it.
Oh my gosh. This is the first time you talked to me about this?
It's such a long form, and I was like,
oh, come on. Wow.
Isn't it not? No?
It is not a long form.
What do you mean?
Okay, it's not a long form. The only I would say troublesome aspect is your travel history. If you travel a lot, you have to provide travel for the last 5 years. But otherwise, I mean, you're talking to somebody who does immigration forms for a living. That is an easy form.
Oh, really?
And you can file online, and it's pretty easy to use, actually. They're online resources.
Is it difficult? So I obviously have family-based green card. So is it like marriage-based green card? So is it difficult for N-400 versus someone who has employer-based green card and now trying to do N-400?
It's less about that and more about the basis of your citizenship application. So if you have a marriage-based green card, chances are you're going to apply 2 years and 9 months after you get your green card because you're married to a U.S. citizen.
Past several years now.
Well, but see, if it's more than 5 years, then you don't have. See, it's harder to apply as a spouse of a U.S. citizen because you have to prove that you're still living with the U.S. citizen for 3 years. Right?
Okay.
It's more documentation. But if 5 years have passed since you got your green card, no matter how you got your green card, then you can just apply on the basis of you having been 5 years, which is really easy. So now that you told us that, you have no excuse. We're just going to everybody shame Yudi every week in the comment section of the podcast. Get him to apply. How many of you are struggling to get visas, much less green cards? And here he is complaining about filling out a 6-page form to become a citizen.
6 pages is a long form. Just kidding. All right, here we go. Is it okay to work with employer A on H1B, green card flight filed through EB2, and employer B on EB3 EAD card, green card filed? Or do I need to leave one job? And do I need to inform employers about each other? Oh, interesting. This is like that Soham Parekh case.
Have you heard of Soham Parekh? This is a Soham Parekh of immigration here. Okay, hold on. So you're working. Keep this question up because I have to read it like 17 times before I get it. Is it okay to work with the employer A and the H1B, green card filed through EB2, and employer B on the EB3? Okay, I'm assuming the EB2 green card is through employer A, and the EB3 EADs, you're working with employer B. I see. So basically you have an H1B, which you are hopefully complying with the terms of that, and you're working with your employer. And if you have an EAD, this is a good question, actually, because there's some people that have H1Bs and green card applications pending. I-485s pending, right? It's very rare, but many are able to if they started the process early enough. There was a window where they could apply for their adjustment of status. They get their EAD, then the window closed. Remember that happened when COVID hit, right? To a lot of people. And that could be where how it happened here. So I would say my view, honestly, in that case, is that it's okay. As long as you're complying with your H1B, you also have an EAD, and you should be allowed to moonlight.
Do they have? Does he have to inform each other?
No.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Okay. In USCIS case tracker, yesterday my H1B case is updated as denied, then immediately updated as approved. Do I need to worry on that? Now it's showing as approved in web version.
You need to worry that you're relying on the online case tracker for information and validity, and believing that this is actually accurate, because the online case tracker is often messed up. Okay. It only gives
Even
you
if it's USCIS.
the USCIS itself online case tracker is often mistaken. Okay.
Mm.
So we know in the immigration bar, we know to maybe give 80% reliance to it, but never 100% until we actually see the paper
Mm.
notice with the official approval or denial or whatever it is. Okay.
Mm.
So that's just lesson number one. Okay.
Mm.
Never put your everyone's so used to it, especially in this day and age, Judy, like with Amazon and just kind of instant updates online that are all really kind of well done and accurate. So many great companies out there that do a great job. USCIS is not one of them. Like they're not using that same technology, and they're not the same people that are maintaining that technology. Their IT sucks. Okay, so when it comes to online case status, take that information with a grain of salt. Now, in this case, that must have been freaky to see a case being denied and then immediately updated as approved. So I'm sorry you have to go through that. Wait till you get the paper notice before you have to worry about anything. But I would say you're probably okay. I've seen that happen a couple times.
Yeah.
And it turned out okay.
So, nice. Okay. If I work illegally on F1 visa and now I want to travel back to India and come back, will CBP has record and deny my entry?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I would say historically, probably not. Lots of people work illegally on the F1 visa. I mean, I think it's more common than even immigration lawyers are aware of, right? And I would say, so if that's the case, I would say probably historically, I would say you probably are going to be okay because the government rarely ever finds out. But now, like literally within the past few months, I feel like we're in an age of information sharing and information kind of accessibility on the part of CBP and the Homeland Security Department as a whole, where I think nothing is beyond their reach, in my opinion. It's just a matter of, do they have the bandwidth to actually make the correct inquiry to find that information out? So it's possible. Now, that being said, generally, if you leave the country and come back in some ways, and this is when I talked to a lawyer about this, in some ways that kind of resets, it kind of wipes the slate clean a little bit.
Okay? Yeah.
In some ways it doesn't. You have still been, in violation of your status. If you answer that you have not violated your status on your visa application, then you're committing fraud. So there's all sorts of problems that can come out of the situation that you find yourself in.
Yeah. He says his employer received H1B case approval mail on change of status. So this is the same.
You're set. Whatever is on paper, that's what you can put your money
on. Okay. Received RFE, but no filing receipt. Is it normal?
Yeah. Is it normal to get to see USCIS's incompetency? 100%. That's actually, it's abnormal not to. Okay. So this is a day in our life for us. Yeah, it's totally normal, but you have a case number. It's on the RFE. So if you plug in that case number, or at least, well, I guess you're never going to know what day it was. Sometimes the RFE mentions what day the case was received, but it's totally normal. And if you're missing a document, sometimes you can go back onto the USCIS system and request a missing document like receipt notices.
Okay. I'm on STEM OPT. Can I apply I-140 without H1B? I'm only left with one H1B chances.
Yeah, I talked about this earlier in this podcast. In theory, you can. There are a bunch of attendant risks to doing so. Most specifically having to do with your travel. If you need to get student visas stamped in your passports after you file your I-140, then you're at risk of not being able to get the student visa approved, the visa stamp approved, because the I-140 can be evidence of your immigrant intent when you're supposed to have non-immigrant intent, meaning desire to return home to your home country.
Yeah. Okay, side income. Can we do side projects, earn money while working on full-time job on F1 OPT, STEM OPT extension?
all of your employment must be reported. So think about how are you organizing your employment, right? If you have a full-time job in OPT, you doing side projects and earning money. We just talked about somebody who worked illegally, and look at the problems that's causing for them. Like everyone here, please don't underestimate the downsides and penalties of violating U.S. immigration rules. It's really easy to take them casually, especially when you're a student or a recent graduate and you're young. God knows I made my share of mistakes when I was in my 20s that we can have 5 separate podcasts about that. Okay. But that being said, the penalties for you are so much higher because if you're caught, if you're discovered to have made even a minor transgression of immigration rules, it can mean a lifetime ban from the US. Right? So working as a side hustle and not reporting that employment under the OPT scheme, right, is an example of violating your status. So be careful. Now, is there a way to start a company, report that company to your school and say, I'm also working for this company, and then do all the side projects? So as long as you're reporting stuff and finding the right way to frame it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So you could start like an LLC, which is taking this side project and you are the contractor for it.
Exactly. So just be creative. Make sure you're checking off all the, or like crossing, I'm sleepy. I can't. Crossing your T's and dotting your I's, right? Sure you're making sure you're doing all of that. Okay. And then find creative ways also to accommodate the work that you want to do within the scope of the law. But the ways that you can do it, are probably, you can be more creative than you think.
Nice. Okay. Can an F2 visa holder change status to J1 if her husband, who is on F1 visa, has filed for EB2 National Interest Waiver I-140? Interesting.
Good question. So the husband on an F1 has an NIW. Can the F2 change to J1? I think the change can happen. I think I would probably feel pretty good about doing that here in the US. These things are always risky when you go get a visa stamp. Like I mentioned a couple times before, getting a visa stamp, they operate under different rules at consulates than they do here in the US. They're much more strict about immigrant intent there than they are here, generally speaking. So if you stay here and have no plans for traveling, then it's probably easier to do this. If you have plans to travel and get visa stamps, then you're inviting a kind of whole area, like whole other sets of risk into your life.
All right. If an OPT file stamp OPT, if on OPT filed stamp OPT but got laid off before the stamp is approved and the stamp period started, then what happens?
Okay, this is like I feel like I'm talking to Yoda here. Everything's backwards. So if on OPT filed the STEM OPT but then got laid off before the STEM is approved, and then the STEM period started, then you're in your unemployment period, right? Everybody here should be a little bit more comfortable about talking to their school. Like your school is not going to turn you in. Okay. They are a source of a lot of information. They will tell you, I know people who work as DSOs, for the most part, they are there to help you. Like the whole reason they take their job is so they can be of service to students, right? So they have this information for you. Don't feel like you can't talk to them about this. Understand, where are you going to get in trouble, right? At what point are you going to get in trouble? What do I need to tell you, DSO? When do you need to know? And what should I do by then? Work with them. Like they're mostly there to help you.
Yeah.
Okay. And I feel like a lot of people are trying to figure out on their own because they're scared to talk to their schools. Right. Like, and you shouldn't be. Like the schools want to know what's happening with you because they want to, first and foremost, they want you to be safe. Secondly, they want to be compliant too. But they're not going to throw you under the bus.
Yeah. Okay. Can I know what options do I have if I get laid off on my 7th year H1B with an approved I-140 for more than a year, can I go to B1, B2 or F1?
Yeah, we talked about this about implications of layoffs, right? In that video that we earlier this week. And so, if you keep a lookout for that, you'll see that kind of coming up
Yes.
in your feed. But yeah, so thankfully you have an approved I-140, so that's great. That'll preserve your ability to continue to get H1Bs once you find your job. But in the meantime, you probably have a 60-day grace period, right? Following the last day of employment from the company you got laid off from. And if you cannot file an H1B before the end of that grace period, you can, in theory, change to B1, B2 online by filing the I-539 form online. It comes, or even to F1 if you want to go back to school, but you have to have your I-20, and there's other kind of hoops you have to jump through to make that happen. Read up on this. It's not the easiest thing to file a B1, B2. I mean, it's pretty easy to apply. And the pending application allows you to stay here while the application is processing. And sometimes it processes for several months, right? But there are, like anything else, some levels of risk involved. So speak to an attorney to talk about that. But in theory, it is a possibility to do that. Yes.
Okay. All right. Got a misdemeanor on F1 visa for selling tobacco and vape to minor. It got dismissed without admission of guilt. Got H1B approved. Can I travel to India for stamping H1B and come back?
Yeah, yes, but either there or even on your H1B, your employer may get an RFE because once again, it got dismissed, right? But now you're in the system, right? So before we even talk about getting a visa stamp, there could be issues for your H1B with respect to your employer getting an RFE. So just watch out for that, okay? And you have to do biometrics and kind of deal with that.
So can you get RFE even after approval?
Yeah. Yeah. The people that are getting RFE'd are the ones they've been approved. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So but then they kind of come across like this information later. So they issue a request, for evidence. Or even like they reopen the case. Right. And then they reopen the case and issue a request for evidence. So yes, it is possible procedurally. So just watch out for that. And there are reopening cases left and right, like in the EB1 context too. We talked about that earlier. Travel, can you travel to India? You can travel to India. But you are going to have to talk to an attorney to make sure you understand the risks involved. Once again, criminal stuff, it really is dependent on the state laws in which it happened, right? And the facts and literally procedurally what happened to your case. I know you explained it here, but there's a lot more to it than what you're able to explain here. So you really should talk to an attorney to fully understand the risks of going versus not going.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I'm on F1, applied for STEM OPT. Can I start an online business with my manager? Also, I uploaded a smiling photo, but later submitted a neutral one.
I think you're in trouble for that smiling photo. Is he talking about the OPT picture?
Yeah, I think so. You have to upload it on. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I understand. Worried about every little possible thing that can happen to your case, right? So, don't worry about the picture. If they want a new one, they'll ask you for it. But starting an online business with your manager on STEM OPT. I mean, I guess, are you working for somebody right now? Are you talking about doing that as a side hustle? Who's your manager? Like, when you say your manager, what do you mean by that? You're manager of the company you're working at, right? I believe you can have multiple employment on your STEM OPT, but each of this has to be, the companies that employ you, even if it's your own business, have to meet certain requirements, including being e-verified and reporting that employment to your school and all sorts of things. So make sure you understand all the hoops that you have to jump through in order to pull this off on STEM OPT, because it's a lot harder than it was on OPT.
Follow up. I just got to know that once I start working for EB3 employer with EAD, I will lose my H1B status. Is it true?
I don't think that's the case, because if you have an EAD, you start working for the EB3 employer with the EAD, will you lose your H1B status? I mean, it's definitely a gray area, but as long as you're working for your employer on the H1B and you have an EAD, in my view, it doesn't matter what you do with the EAD, so long as you're still doing what you have to do on the H1B. So to me, it's less about it being your EB3 employer. Like, to me, that doesn't matter. You could be like side hustling or doing contracts or just doing, some sort of moonlight or just whatever it is, right? To me, that doesn't matter so much. I believe that you maintain your H1B status so long as you comply with the terms of the H1B. And the EAD allows you to work on the open market on the side as well. So, but there are lawyers that disagree with me on that one. So,
yeah. My company has filed my H1B extension, but their lawyer is refusing to provide a receipt number. Is this allowed, or anyway can I obtain the receipt number?
Is it allowed? Yes, it's allowed, because it's an employer petition. It kind of sucks, and it's not a cool practice, honestly. But because it's an employer-based petition, they do reserve the right to control the information associated with it. So, that being said, you do need it to travel. You need the H1B approval at some point. You definitely are required to be given the LCA as well, underlying the H1B, which that doesn't help you with the H1B itself. But hopefully this is going to be a short-lived problem once the case is approved, because you have to get the approval.
Yeah. Okay. My classes starts on 24th September in Seattle. I'm flying to US on 2nd September, but staying at my uncle's place in San Francisco. Would it cause any trouble during the immigration process?
No, and then you're moving to Seattle after you stay your short stint at your uncle's place. No, that shouldn't cause any issues.
Yeah.
I mean, you're coming maybe just like a few weeks before the program, but I mean, that's only a few weeks before, and maybe you can tell, if they ask why, maybe you can tell the officer, my uncle's going to help me relocate to Seattle and just kind of help me get set up for school.
Yeah. Are you in San Francisco or no?
Me? Yeah, I'm just south of San Francisco. Are you asking me to help the student? I'll move you up. Okay, forget about your uncle. I'll meet you at the airport, and we'll move you up to Seattle and get you all set up.
No, I'm coming this Sunday to Fremont. So I was thinking.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I'll be in Fremont on Sunday.
Nice.
My son's in a baseball tournament at the Central Park Sports Complex there.
Oh, it's so weird. Like, I'm going to some baby shower thingy, and they have it in the park as well. So maybe it's the same park.
Yeah, there are a lot of parks in Fremont, but yeah, that'd be kind of cool. It is a park, by the way, that has a big cricket pitch too, right next to the baseball field. So
nice. Did you watch cricket?
I enjoy it, but I have a hard time understanding it.
Wow, yeah. You are really ABCD.
Absolutely certified.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Is it mandatory for me on OPT who moved for job to do AR-11 even after I update SAVP and university portal?
AR-11 is a change of your residential address.
That's what he's asking, that he moved after
for the job.
Yeah.
I would do it. Yeah, I understand the confusion there. The SCVP that sort of reporting is much more extensive than the AR-11. So why would I need to do both? I would just go ahead and to be on the safe side and do it.
Yeah. Even if I know, what is the typical required if you are on H1B or green card? Like
that's the AR-11.
Yeah, but like, what is it, like a time limit? Like, okay, within 30 days of moving, you
There's
have to
no
do it?
time limit. They just say after every move. The penalties are actually quite disastrous if they decide to enforce it if you don't do it. But most people have not done it, right?
Yeah.
So our advice is, if you haven't done it, just go on and note your last move and make sure you do it moving forward.
Gotcha. Got it. Okay. I'm planning to start my studies spring 2026. Okay. Currently on H4, which will expire next year, August. I want to change of status after my first semester so that I can get in state tuition fees. Suggest me next steps. Ooh. Okay.
Ooh. I'm not sure the in-state tuition. This is a little bit outside of my depth, okay? Because this is more about the tuition in-state rules versus immigration status, right? That often has to do with residency, how long you've been living in a certain place. That being said, it could also be about your status, and I'm not sure about that. If you're on the H4, why would you want to change your status? To what?
F1.
But how would the F1 give her in-state tuition where the H4 wouldn't? That's the part that I don't understand.
Yeah. Tanya, if you are still here, just ask your questions. I mean, follow up. Yes.
Yeah, maybe give some more information. We can go from there.
Yeah. Okay. I have my H1B valid till October 2025. I was in US from 2023 May to 2024 May. I'm in India from then. Since my project got ended, what should I do now? Not getting any interview from India.
So he came to India in May 2024.
Yeah.
Sorry, she came to India in May 2024.
I think she came in 2023 and left in 2024. Is my guess.
Came to the US.
Yeah.
And left in May 2024. Has the H1B valid, but it's not really valid because you don't have the job.
Yeah.
Right. So what should you do now? You're not getting any interviews from India. I mean, are you asking, how can I come to the US to get interviews? The only way to do that would to be on a student visa, not a student, on a tourist visa. You can't come on the H1B, right? You can only come on the H1B if you're doing so for your employer that sponsored the H1B. So the only other way would be through a tourist visa.
Yeah. My visa expired 9 days back. What if my L1 extension is rejected? Will I get some time to pack my bags, or I have to leave on same day?
It depends on your visa expired 9 days back. I'm assuming your status, your work authorization expired 9 days back. You have a pending extension that allows you to work while while you're waiting for it to be approved. So I'm assuming that's a situation. If that's the case and the extension is rejected, there is really no grace period. So you may get a few days here and there, but you pretty much have to leave right away or as soon as you can.
Yeah. Okay, one last clarifying. It's been more than 60 days. So this is for someone who moved their job on F1. Is that going to be a problem for AR-11?
No, just make sure you do it. Yeah. You demonstrating your efforts to stay compliant and follow the rules is more important than being a few days late. And there really isn't like a deadline from an AR-11 perspective as to when to apply. It's within a reasonable amount of time. So absolutely go ahead and do it.
Yeah. So she's saying change of status in order to be eligible for OPT. So that's why she wants
to OPT. Okay. I thought you were looking for the in-state tuition. Yeah.
That was our question. So
yeah.
How should she, I guess the question is, how does she do the change of status? Is that?
So if you want to change the status, then you'd need the I-20 form from your school. Once you get the I-20 form, you file the I-539 form. You can find it online. And just make sure you follow the directions very carefully. You probably have to premium process it because it can take several months to process. It's a pretty complicated process, honestly. So once again, I understand why you want F1 because you want OPT. But think about other ways that maybe you can get work authorization. I do feel like, at least from my perspective, going from H4 to F1 is a step back. But I understand why you want the OPT.
Yeah. Okay. I think we will call it. Thank you, Samir, for you made it. I mean, even though you were sleeping.
I made it, didn't pass out, approaching my nap time.
Nice.
So,
and I'll hopefully see you on Sunday in the same park.
Awesome.
Maybe if it is in the same park.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, for O1, everybody who's here, we are doing webinar on O1 visa. I mean, not O1 visa, but like how that could be a path for our student. It's absolutely free. Link in the description. Samir, I'll see you next week.
See you then.
Okay. Bye. Thanks everyone. Yeah.